Sherry,
Sorry.
okay.
Yes?
Did Sherry tell you that we were going to just mention the couple talking? I don't know if they're a couple, the people talking from Island Water Source in January. We're going to mention that to the group.
Yep.
In case they have any questions they want me to forward to them.
Yep, that's a good idea.
Okay. And then I'll just write them down and forward them to them. I know they're doing a handout for a Q&A. That's as much as I know.
Okay.
Good. The guy I was used to dealing with, who put in my well 30 years ago, has retired. So he will not be at the talk.
You know, everybody's retiring. What is this?
Becky,
Good, good, good.
Oh, now they're coming in.
yeah.
What do you think? Give it one more minute. Let me see. Oh, no.
I wish we could see people.
Everybody's probably having their lunch. Oh, there's Aunt Anna.
Okay. Hi there.
There's Danielle. All right, well, let's get started. People are going to show up. I'm sure you all didn't want to come inside. And I'd like to try and keep this as short as possible so we can go back outside before it snows tomorrow. Okay, Liz, why don't you go ahead and give your presentation, and then you can go and do something else if you'd like. You're muted.
Yep. Hi. Sure. I'm
Unmuted.
happy to do that.
You're muted again. Muted.
Okay. Hi
There we go.
again. I think a lot of you probably already know much of what's in this presentation, so I won't, belabor anything.
Yeah.
Okay, can everyone see this?
That was last week, right?
That was, I'm not sure, sometime recently. Okay, yeah, I've taken on the job of the new climate change planner at the Martha's Vineyard Commission, and we recently got grant funding to do a comprehensive Vineyard and Gosnold climate action plan, which I'll talk about at the end of this presentation, but I'm just wanting to go over some of the basics first. Some projections for the vineyard. 2.5 to 5.8 degrees rise in temperature that's a big deal. That's a lot of heat. And there are health impacts that I'll talk about that come with that. We're going to be getting more precipitation, stronger and more frequent storms. And many people on the island are actively preparing to address these issues as best as we can. This is just a quick list of some of the climate change impacts we'll be seeing here. Extreme weather is probably the most serious of the issues, although they're all serious. We haven't had a major hurricane in a long time. There's a lot of people living here now and a lot more houses than there were back in 1938 when we had a major hurricane. So we need to prepare for that, as well as we know from last weekend, tornadoes too, and wildfires and heat. Some of the things we can do to adapt to extreme weather. It would be great to have a professional island-wide emergency manager planner. I believe the county has a planner now, which is good. I'm not sure if they've hired someone, but the position is there. And I'm really interested in working on a post-disaster recovery plan so that if we get a major hurricane or when we get one, we don't have to start from scratch. We'll know where we can build, how we can build, and so we can build up a resilient community after the fact. The commission is looking to do a supply chain study to see, to make sure that we can get supplies if, for example, the Steamship Authority docks were damaged in a storm. The town of Aquina has a community emergency response team, which I wish every town would get. They train the community members to respond in emergencies with first aid and other things. I think that's a really great way to go about taking care of your community. Some of the coastal impacts we're probably all familiar with. There's over 1,000 buildings in the 100-year flood zone. One of the things that I would like to advocate for is no new construction in the flood zone. It's called the flood zone for a reason. That's because it floods, and really building, one coastal geologist I read is quoted as saying that building in risk zones is a disservice to the next generation. And that's really true.
Can I just interrupt you for a second with this picture up here? That house, it's for sale if you want to buy it.
Oh,
I think they put the for sale sign up just after this happened.
I hope people look at it in the summer when it's not flooded if they're interested in buying it. But yeah, that's a really bad location. It's in a wetland, so we shouldn't be building in wetlands. Some examples of coastal adaptation. Oh, there's that picture again. Whoops.
Flood zone.
Flood
Thank you.
zone. Beach nourishment, dune restoration. We have to start thinking about how long we can protect our coastal roads. And at some point we need to talk about managed retreat from the coast as the sea rises. And green infrastructure is something, using nature to address flood control issues. And a couple of towns have already gotten grants to look at harbor resiliency, Tisbury and Oak Bluff. So they're looking at ways to protect their harbor area. This is a photo of the hospital. This is Beach Road, which is in the flood zone, Eastville Ave, which is in the flood zone, and County Road up here is in the flood zone. So that's 3 of the 4 access
Really?
to the hospital. And in a major storm, all 3 of those could be flooded. And then Temahegan Ave over here will be inundated in a Category 4 hurricane. So if we get a major storm, there may not be any access to the hospital right now. So that's a big problem. The commission got a grant to study the storm tide pathways. The Center for Coastal Studies in Provincetown found 700 inundation pathways that will be flooding as the storm surge gets higher and the sea rises. They're going to be providing maps and apps for all the towns showing where these are. It's a great planning tool. They're also going to be having real live water level forecasting on a national weather site website so that emergency responders can have an idea of what roads may be flooded in a big storm. This is a really, really exciting project. And I think we're hoping to have a public presentation on this project next month. And that will be on the ICANN website if that gets organized. Salt marshes are amazing. They absorb a lot of carbon. They're the base of the marine food chain. They absorb floodwater that would otherwise flood our roads and homes and lands. Their big problem with sea level rise in marshes is that if marshes can't naturally migrate inland to keep pace with sea level rise, they're going to be inundated. So the question is, what do we do when there are houses in the way of the salt marsh, that wants to migrate inland? This is a photo of Majors Cove and Senjikentacket Pond. The green area is the area where the salt marsh will migrate at 3 feet of sea level rise. One of the things that the Oak Bluffs Conservation Commission and Planning Board are looking at is some sort of possibly a district of critical planning concern or some work with the land bank or both, where the land bank would possibly purchase these houses at some point and remove them so that the marshes can migrate inland. So that's a project that's just begun. You all probably know more about this than I do, but you know, fish and shellfish are very much impacted by warmer and more acidic water. The ponds are already in trouble with nitrogen. As we all know, algae blooms, warming water is making the pond water quality worse with, you know, there's the cyanobacteria now. We've got increased rain, so we've got more runoff going into the ponds. But there's a lot going on the island to address this. Shellfish recovery, growing eelgrass. Cottage City Oysters is growing sugar kelp near their oysters to help buffer the acidity of the water. Aquaculture is like a super industry. The shellfish clean the water. It provides local food and local jobs. Something we need to be looking at as we look at our future economy. And I know I don't think Sherry's here, but I know that the permeable reactive barrier that was put in the lagoon pond, I think I recall Sherry saying that that's capturing almost twice as much nitrogen as they anticipated. So that's a really good news.
Can I add something, Liz?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, also, if we're seeing this like increased flooding, we're not going to have areas open because, you know, contaminants and everything. So that's another issue with the shellfish. It's not like after a big storm, we can go and harvest.
Right.
We would
Yep.
have to wait. So that's another side effect.
Yeah. And the rain is going to be heavier too, which means more pollutants going into the pond. So it's really not a very good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Danielle. As I just said, more and heavier rainfall is going to be impacting the ponds. It's also going to be flooding inland roads and homes and basements. Green infrastructure is an industry that we need to get more involved with here on the island. This picture on the bottom is a picture of a man-made, you know, retention basin in a park to control the water. And in some towns, they are taking parks or building parks and turning them into stormwater retention for storms. And then once the storm is over, and the water is absorbed, they turn back into parks. So we need to be looking at innovative ideas to address these climate impacts. And I like to talk about the fact that something we can all of us can do in our very own yards. Lawns, if lawns could be smaller, that would be great because they really don't have a lot of environmental value at all. and they don't absorb much carbon. Well, they do absorb some carbon, but it's outweighed by the use of lawnmowers and blowers and all the fossil fuel using maintenance tools that are used to keep a lawn green and allegedly pretty. And lawn irrigation is very wasteful. A lot of that water does not go back into the groundwater, into our water supply. Something like over a third, even more, I forget the figure. A lot of water is used for for lawn irrigation. And you know, we're also going to be having a lot of droughts. And I think it's important that we consider what the best use of our water supply is. And just a quick note that, you know, conserving land is a form of climate adaptation, because when you conserve a piece of land, there's no buildings that are going to be vulnerable to coastal storms. There's, you know, no loss of vegetation, no surface runoff, the groundwater is protected. It's a good means of addressing climate impacts as well. The Martha's Vineyard Commission, and I believe the town of Edgartown, just got a grant and completed a community wildfire protection plan. And wildfire is a big threat here as well, for the reasons stated here. Next month, again, as a part of the climate action plan, there's going to be a public Q&A on the wildfire protection plan. And again, there'll be ads in the paper about that, and it will be on the ICANN website. And the West Tisbury website has some really good tips on what to do if you live near a forested area to prepare for the potential of a wildfire. Heat is going to affect our health in many ways. A lot of respiratory issues having to do with health, more pollen, longer pollen seasons, more mold from flooding and storms, wildfire smoke. Ticks, of course, are a huge problem. You know, as it gets hotter, outdoor workers are going to have trouble, you know, working all day without being affected by the heat. And I don't, you know, it would be great if the health community would do a climate change health needs assessment to find out exactly what we need here to address these issues. Do we need more respiratory professionals? Do our primary care physicians and nurses know enough about the impacts of climate change to our health so that they're talking to their patients about that? Food security is another issue, and these are all issues we're going to be looking at in the climate action plan. IGI and a lot of other organizations are doing a lot of good work on food security issues, and a lot of farms are turning to regenerative farming practices, which protect the soil and absorb more carbon and have higher crop yields. So there's a lot of action going on here to address our food issues. And I think it's important to note that, you know, while we're dealing with these climate impacts, the rest of the world is going to be dealing with these and other impacts too, like water shortages and food shortages and increased food prices and national security issues. So I think it's important for us when we think about food, especially, to think about being as self-sufficient as we possibly can. Climate change is going to impact our economy. We need to be aware of this. There's the potential for the loss of visitors if we get damage in extreme weather and other coastal impacts. It's likely that the coastal real estate market is going to have a big downturn worldwide as the sea rises, and that can trickle down into the entire local economy. Towns are going to lose tax revenue when waterfront homes are lost, plus towns are going to also have to be paying for the costs of adaptation and disaster recovery. So I think the economy is something that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but we really do need to look at how climate change is going to be affecting our island economy. Some of the things we can do, a lot of the things I've talked about could create jobs, salt marsh restoration, green infrastructure, living shorelines. I put the wampum there because I understand that the acidity in the water, and Becky, and this is wrong, please correct me, is affecting the beautiful purple color of the wampum. And that's an unfortunate thing that, so there are green and blue economies that look at sustainable economies and ocean-based economies, and we ought to be looking at creating more of those types of jobs. And the flip side of climate change adaptation is mitigation. I'm sure everyone's aware of the 100% renewable energy initiative. We need to be striving to go all electric with transportation and heating and cooling in our homes. The MVC Climate Action Task Force Energy Working Groups come up with a roadmap to transforming the island's energy system. Electrification, renewable energy, resilience. I think it's important for people to understand that renewable energy can save us all money, at least in the long run, and in addition to being good for the environment. And again, like the adaptation side of the coin, energy-related jobs will be opening up, more solar installations, electric vehicle sales and maintenance. So I think we can take the problems that climate change is causing and turn them into opportunities to help our economy. These are just some things that the Commission's been working on with regard to climate change. A Climate Action Task Force was developed in 2019. The Commissioners approved a climate emergency resolution. They've developed a DRI energy policy. They hired a climate change planner. The task force has subcommittees, the Energy Working Group and the Climate Resilience Committee. Dan Doyle updated the hazard mitigation plan this year. We're doing the Storm Tide Pathways program. The task force is working with the Steamship Authority, advocating the electrification of ferries and working hard with Eversource to get our energy system upgraded so that we're able to handle all the electricity that we're going to be needing in coming years. So there's a lot being done at the Commission right now and across the island. I don't mean to just single out the Commission, although that's obviously where I work. This is our big news right now. In a couple of weeks, we're going to kick off the MV and Gosnode Climate Action Plan to identify long-term goals, priority actions, and implementation to build our social, environmental, and economic resilience to climate change and minimize our contributions. There are 5 categories to this plan. We've got a steering committee to guide us in the work. We've developed 6 thematic working groups of local experts and stakeholders to help develop the goals and priorities. I'm not sure if you're aware, in May 8th to the 14th is Climate Week. There are going to be community engagement activities all over the island, dozens and dozens of activities to help people understand what the issues are and what every one of us can do to help us become a more resilient island. So we'll be developing a climate action plan in late spring next year, and it's not going to sit on the shelf. We're going to have an interactive dashboard website that we're going to that the public can access, and we're going to track our implementation on the website, and we're going to keep this moving until we get the goals accomplished. These are the 6 thematic working groups that the Climate Action Plan is addressing, and they're all interconnected, and they're going to be cross issues. We've got great people working on each of these thematic working groups, and our kickoff meeting is December 1st, and we're extremely excited to finally get this project underway. This is something I've been wanting to do for 10 years, and I'm so excited that we're getting moving on this. Just a couple more slides. I just want to make clear that there are many, many people, individuals and organizations that are working on climate action around the island. So there's many things happening behind the scenes that a lot of people aren't aware of, and that's very encouraging. And just a quick look at some of the things every one of us can do to make a difference. We can make informed decisions. The Island Climate Action Network website is a great place to learn more about these issues. We need to be educated to make informed decisions, and really that's the biggest thing. If you need a new car, think about buying an electric vehicle. If you need to upgrade your heating system, consider a heat pump, but you need to know about those things in order to make the right decision. Shopping locally, keeping our money on the island is important. And for those of you who have lots of money, you can divest from fossil fuels. And my final slide, just putting everything in a nutshell. So Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Liz. That was great. A lot of work's being done. Okay, are there any questions? I'm not seeing, up, Diamond Ellie. Gotta unmute yourself.
Are you talking to me, Richard?
Yeah, you look like you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did. What did you call me, Ellie?
Oh, no, I thought I didn't see you. I was
Oh.
Diamond Ellie. That's what I see on the screen.
Oh, maybe it's
Not
somebody else.
muted.
Do you want me to ask the question?
Just a minute. Not yet. Oh, go ahead. Ellie,
Um,
Thank you for all your work. It's really encouraging that you're like out there. I have an issue on the high school plastic football field, and I and all the rest of it is like you're right on target, and I'm going to. I used to do. Are we going to put this on MVTV? Are we going to put this meeting on MVTV?
I don't think it,
I
well,
think it was brilliant, and that people, every avenue we have to talk about sustainable issues, we should. I mean, it's just. I know Sherry was looking for the MVTV programs that I was able to produce. And it's really important to have public access to these issues, because I don't care how far down the line, we can refer to what you have said today, Liz Dunkey. Thank you for your brilliance. Okay.
Thank you. Our community engagement is going to be a big part of the climate action plan. And one of the big goals is to get the community much more engaged in these issues and to better understand them. So we'll be doing
Okay, I'll
more.
be back when we talk about what do we have a welcome. I'm Roxanne Ackerman. I'm on the school committee, and I have an issue with the plastic field that we want to put over the aquifer. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, let's go. Gail, next, please.
Thank you, Liz. You probably memorized this by now, right? The question, I'm just going from the beginning, is the emergency management. I don't know if you guys have looked into actually the emergency management plan, because Oak Bluffs has a very organized one, as well as I know the Down Island towns too. So we do have an emergency manager, which happens to be, it's either the fire chief or the police chief or both. And there is a staff, and they do have a booklet that has a organized plan. And so I didn't know if you were talking about anything in addition to that, but it's something that because when you were talking a special emergency manager, it's they do work together with I think the Down Island towns, I believe. So you may want to look at that plan.
Well, that the issue of an island-wide emergency management professional came up during the MVP Community Resilience Project workshops that all the towns had in, I think it was 2018. And several of the towns felt that it was important to have a regional planner overseeing emergency management island-wide, as opposed to each town doing it independently, even though they do coordinate. So that's where that originated.
Was it with the police chiefs, or was it, and the fire chiefs, or was that just lay people? I mean, I don't know if they understand that there are plans in place that they're regional, but it's like Down Island, Up Island. And then I believe there's the most island-wide thing is a center, like a place for people to go. When we're looking at the high school, for instance, and then Up Island doesn't make any sense to have something down here. But in any event, there is a plan in place. And I think that, we should see what is there first before, talking about that. But I understand people may not know that, because I didn't until I had to. That's all.
Okay, anybody else? Questions or comments about the presentation?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Emma.
Well, I want to chime in about the picture that you put up there about wampum, Liz, and I actually missed what you said might be decreasing the occurrence of the purple. Will you repeat that for me?
I think, and if Becky's here, she can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Brett Stearns at the tribe at a meeting I was at recently said that I think it's the acidity in the water may be diluting the purple in the shells. And that's, it's a cultural Wampanoag tradition to use the wampum, and the color is very important.
I hadn't heard
Yeah.
that yet. I mean, the acidity in the water definitely is doing a lot to a lot of the shellfish. And I was going to throw out there that the jewelry making is also another important aspect of the economy, because it's sort of, it's become a craft that, in addition to indigenous people, non-indigenous, folks who work on the water, it's another way for them to create added income from their harvest from the water. So it's a way of allowing people to continue to make money related to their fishing, their fishing habits.
Right.
When there isn't enough fishing to perhaps pay all of the bills. So, but I actually had a question about salt marshes. I drive by Central Kentucky and Farm Pond and watching how those salt pans are getting bigger and bigger. Actually, also that breakwater in the west arm of the lagoon is another one. The salt pans are getting bigger and bigger. So that's the area where, everybody, like, you'll look and you'll see there's these huge expanses where the Spartina, the marsh grass is gone, it's dead, and it all just looks like flat blank mud. And then at high tide, the water comes in there, and sometimes the water's trapped there. And I mean, maybe I'm using the term salt pan a little bit incorrectly, but when the water comes in and is trapped there, and then the salt water, and then it evaporates, it leaves all that salt, and that high salt content is what can sometimes kill the marsh. But I'm wondering if anyone's talked about really big marsh restoration, like they've done other places. I heard that in Rhode Island, it was like so long ago now, they're actually doing like thin layer deposition.
Yeah.
Like from dredge spoil. So after they do a little bit of dredging, just like, I'm picturing like almost like a fire hose of sand, just kind of being blown in a couple inches at a time across the marsh. And when you deposit just a couple of inches, supposedly a healthy marsh will be able to grow back through that. And it's a way of like helping them to accrete. We're continuing to work on, ribbed mussels, and we've had some more successes, and hoping to find ways to apply them to some of the vineyard, water quality and marsh issues soon. And that's a place that I would love to grow some ribbed mussels to help stabilize the marsh.
Yeah, I think thin layer deposition is something we need to look at for the marshes here. That's one of the, it's been really successful in other places. And I see Farm Pond on my walks every morning, and I think some of the issues in Farm Pond may have to do with the lack of circulation, and the enlargement of that culvert needs to happen to help protect those salt marshes. But yeah, I'd love to do an inventory of all the marshes on the island and just see what the status is of each of their health.
All right, well, let me know.
Thank you.
When you want to tackle that one.
Not next week.
Anna? You gotta unmute.
Yeah, thank you. I have many photographs taken over the years showing death of big patches of marsh, especially along the road from Oak Bluffs to just before the golf course there, but many other places as well. Mats of dead algae. And that's what I see is killing them most. And of course, the algae is caused by Title V septic systems. So that's something that we have to deal with. The fact that they are illegal, they are in violation of the law. The regulations are in violation of the law, which I have talked about before, and we need to really address that. And so as long as the Title V septic systems continue to inundate the marshes with nitrogen, those gooey, solid lids of dead algae will be forming and killing the grass. That's all I want to say on that. It's something we have to address.
Okay.
Back to Title V.
Anybody else have any questions about the presentation? Yep, John.
Liz, nice to see you after all these years. I wish there was no need for your job. Serious, of course. I'm wondering, with the increase in sea level, is there anything known or reliably or even not so with respect to modeling about the possibility of further saltwater intrusion into the aquifer and a possible threat to drinking water on the island?
In low-lying wells, yes, that's already a problem in some areas. I think Chappaquiddick and parts of Katama and maybe some places up island. And also I know that the Oak Bluffs Water District is concerned about saltwater intrusion into their Lagoon Pond well. And they were looking at possibly raising that causeway that runs between the Lagoon Pond and the Upper Lagoon Pond, help keep the saltwater out of that pond. So yes, that's a big concern.
So is there a systematic effort to look into it across the island and Gosnell?
I think that will be one of the priorities in the climate action plan. I would hope it's one of the priorities.
Anybody else have any questions? Roxanne?
So my first question would be, Gosnold, is that part of Dukes County, and does that include all the Elizabeth Islands, or how does that figure?
It does. It includes the Elizabeth Islands.
Okay.
Martha's Vineyard and the Elizabeth Islands make up Dukes County. And we've been working with the people on Cutty Honk. They actually have a thematic working group. It's not thematic, it's a working group of their own. They're going to be working with us on this plan, but they're also going to be sort of focusing on their own issues because they've got different concerns than we do, but we're happy to.
Well, I worked with Seth Garfield when we were in nations of aquaculture, and I hope he's still being productive because he faced obstacles, and shellfish is sort of and Emma, like if you want to jump in, but right now I'm going to defend what Martha's Vineyard has done for the industry. And NOAA gave us 3 grants back, a long time ago, and I think we have outside of, oh no, I can't just draw it right up, but they have a really big production in south of Boston. Oh, Emma, come on, give me a little bit of help. Duxbury. Yeah, right. I mean, they have everybody, feeding into a kind of a co-op, and I compare it to what we've done with Island Grown Initiative, and it was sort of everybody's dreams that we would have, a good shellfish industry. And so I'm going to, besides Water Alliance, thank you, Water Alliance, who is back in business. Thank you, Sherry, for not giving us up. And Liz, I'm so impressed with what you have offered today. Thank you. And, every town has their issues. So it's all about more than water quality. It's about life. Water is life. I did like that. And so, we're just a little island, and I'm going to jump in. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Thank you. You're right. It's all connected, and that's, you can't address one thing without addressing the others. They're all interconnected. It all has to do with our land and our water, and that's what we need to live. So it's, we need to look at the big
Okay.
picture.
The big picture. Okay, anybody else? I'm not seeing anybody. All right, thank you, Liz.
Thank you.
Appreciate that and all the hard work you've been doing and all the groups that you've pulled together and people involved, and maybe we'll be able to save this place.
It's good to see everyone. Thank you.
Surprise.
Okay, yep, Gail.
No, my
No,
hand's not raised.
Sorry,
is
we
it?
got two Gails. Gail Tipton, sorry. Go ahead, Gail Tipton. Get unmute.
I'm like, Gail is so beautiful. Oh,
Unmute. There you go. Gail, we're not hearing you.
Okay,
There you go.
so who is the contact for the recordings for MVT, the Water Alliance? So I can contact MVTV or have them contact, and we have a direct line so that Roxanne for years was filming us, and bless her, So today I see the recording happening and her question. I would like that to go.
I think Sherry Cousteau is, she's got it under. She works so hard to find a way to make it accessible, and from the Martha's Vineyard Commission. Thank you, Sherry.
Well, I know.
Thanks, Roxanne. Yes,
Now-
I have been recording all of these meetings, so
Yeah.
I will put them up on the Water Alliance page.
Who's that?
It's Sherry, sorry.
Sherry's here.
Sherry back?
I'm in another meeting and I'm getting ready to go sample, so
But Sherry, do you want me to help?
I'm listening.
Want me to help in terms of connecting with MVTV?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Okay, I just thought while we're here, I could
Mhm.
get even a number
For the old
for the recording.
meetings?
Recording.
Yeah.
Today.
Oh, today's meeting.
Mhm.
So what would that contact be?
No, the old recordings are a little bit of a problem, is what I would say. But since COVID, I think Sherry has a handle on, and that's where we're going in the future.
So
Yeah,
Sherry,
we've recorded all of these.
and those will go directly to MVTV?
They can. I've got to put them up on our website for the Water Alliance page,
Okay, so
but I can send them to Michelle.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If they go to Michelle, that would be a big help.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you. So that was one practical thing. And Richard, do you want me to mention the January speakers now? Or
Yeah,
wait?
no, I think now we're going to go around the screen here, and if people
Okay.
have things they want to talk about, so go ahead.
Okay, so in January, the people from Island Water Source, there's a Jacqueline Noel, who's a co-owner, and a Dave Swa. It's spelled very differently, but anyway, he digs the wells and has for years, and they are going to be coming in January to speak about what goes on beneath the surface, which I think is great and very important. So if there are any, they're also going to do a Q&A handle, which will be nice to follow and add your own questions. But are there any issues, questions that I could forward to them that would be helpful for them to consider before their presentation?
Sorry, did you say, Gail, that they're from Water Resource?
Island Water Resource. They're the ones who do the wells. Yeah, all over the island. Yeah. So Roxanne. Whoops, she's,
Thanks. I just wonder, I didn't go to the Martha's Vineyard Commission on this plastic field. Sorry, if you want to tell me how you want me to identify it, because I had a term as a school committee person where I left my legacy as let them play on grass, thank you for having grass for our kids to play on. And when I 4 years later, they had a plan to a plastic field. I'm not gonna call it anything different, and I will. What? Okay. What should I call it?
Plastic field.
Oh,
It's
okay.
atrocious. Yes.
Well, it's like,
Don't make it sound any more romantic than that. It's a plastic field.
okay. So
And we have
anyway,
to stop it.
I was left, don't deal with this any further because they have to fund it. And so it went through the whole process, and then they came back to the high school, and we have the one condition that was sustained was that we have to provide a field maintenance administrator or whatever you want to be. And I thought, well, okay, that's sort of a big budget increase because we have playing fields for our kids, and all of a sudden
I'm gonna have to interrupt because I know that probably everybody at this meeting thinks they made a big mistake. But if we spend our time talking about that mistake, we're not going to get anything else accomplished. It's still in the planning stages. They still have to go before the Oak Bluffs Planning Board. I think they're still going to get approvals from the Oak Bluffs Board of Health. So maybe somebody will be able to stop this. And if you want to do anything, participate in these meetings. Go on the Oak Bluffs website, find out when these meetings are happening and participate in these meetings. Express yourself, write letters. That's all we can do. But I don't think
The other thing too, and I'm not going to belabor the point, but I mean, Richard is right. If you want to pay attention to what's going on in Oak Bluffs, their jurisdiction is very narrow, but that jurisdiction is based on being on an aquifer. And does this present
yes
a toxic environment? So very, very narrow, nothing else but that. So, go on the website.
narrow.
Right. Yep, that's right. It's our aquifer, it's not drinking water. All right, so let's just move along. I'm going to go across with my screen. So Fred, have you got anything you'd like to share with the group at this particular time? No? Okay, Anna, I know you've got something you want to talk about. Just don't take too much time, but go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I want to talk more about what I started talking about last time. And I sent some information to Sherry. And it's about that soy oil filter down at the bottom of Skiff on Lagoon Pond Road. And I still haven't found out. How can I find out who brought that field, who brought that idea to the island? How did that happen to be, to actually be done here on the island? It's a system that just should have been vetted much more before it was put in here. And when it would have been vetted properly, it would have been just shown as a completely unrealistic system. I still don't know who brought it to the island. If there is any other of them being planned. I've asked these questions over and over again to various people. I have gotten no answer about that. I would like to have an answer about that because I want to pursue that issue so that to make sure there's no other one being done on the island. So what can I do about that?
In a conversation with Sherry, I think that she had said that at some point, the folks who were associated with putting in and monitoring the PRB are going to be giving a talk on the island. So they're actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't know if it's going to be in person or not. But so there's going to be a meeting specifically about the PRB with the folks who have been really deeply involved in it. So that would be a good place where everyone will be prepared to answer those questions.
And when will that be happening? When will that be happening, do you think? How would I
Anna,
know?
I'm sorry, Emma. We're planning on doing it in December. And I have sent your concerns to Jessica, who is going to give the presentation on the PRB. And she's going to, she'll be aware of them and she will address them.
Is
But it's going
this-
to be sometime in December. We're just trying to, it's probably the middle of December. We're just
Okay.
finalizing the date and the time.
Okay, so did you say Jessica? Is that an island person?
Jessica Thomas is the lead from SMAST and it will be a Zoom presentation.
Yes, I mean, this is an island person. Who is the island connection for this system?
The Martha's Vineyard Commission and SMAST have been doing the PRB together.
Okay, so who do I talk with at the commission about
It would
this?
be Adam and I.
Okay, okay, so making an appointment with Adam. I mean, or how do I do this so that so that I make sure that it's not going to happen again on the island? That's my goal with that particular thing.
I can't guarantee it's not going to happen on the island again because it has been very effective. It's not just soybean oil, it's 60% other types of oil. So, and I think this is, I think after you have Jessica presents and addresses your concerns, then maybe that would be a good time to talk. But her talk will be in the middle of December.
Okay, so will I
Okay.
get notification of this, please?
Oh, yeah,
Just- okay.
the meeting will definitely go out to Water Alliance.
Thank you,
We're going to
Sherry.
broadcast it far and wide.
Thank you, Sherry.
Great. Thank you, Sherry. That's good to know.
Sure.
Okay,
Sorry.
Gail, you're next on my screen. Anything else you want to say? Gail Barmakian.
No. No,
Yay!
other
I
than
can't
as a
believe it.
general, I know you're, no, as a general thing, I just, I don't know. I'm always concerned about additional concentrated development and just trying to catch up with it because we're already behind the 8 ball. And I don't believe in smart growth because no growth is smart. No, it's just one perspective. Just be careful.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Gail. John Charles, do you have anything else you want to talk about at this point in time?
What's an inappropriate way to describe water issues, but I do have certain burning issues, but not anything that's worth going into in this
Okay.
context, with respect to the state of some freshwater ponds. But I did have a question for Anna. Anna, thank you for sending in the written version of your comments, and thanks to Sherry for distributing them. But you indicate in them that Title V is illegal. And I wonder if you could briefly summarize how that's the case, and then if so, is there any attempt? I mean, I recall talking with you and Gail thousands of years ago, in the days of Protect Our Water, about the idea of involving the representative and the state legislators for the vineyard in this issue to do with Title V. And here we are all these years later and nothing's happening. So if there is indeed a robust case that it's actually illegal in some way, then surely that's worth pursuing. So is that something you've written up, for example?
Yes, first of all, I describe it in great detail in my book, Green Light at the End of the Tunnel. And it's very simple, John. It's when you look at the law, whether it's the Federal Clean Water Act or the Massachusetts Clean Water Act law, which is right there at the top of Title V, it says the duty is to protect the health of the environment, the health of water, the health of the fishing grounds, the health of the ecosystems. It says right there. And then right there in the top of Title V, it says it. And then, of course, Title V proceeds to be incredibly polluting. The fastest way that you can put the most amount of nitrogen into the groundwater and into the ponds. And so this is this tremendous dichotomy. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but there's the law, and then there are the regulations that are against the law. And all of you know that Title V is a terribly polluting system. You all know that. It's destroying our ponds, totally threatening our drinking water. And the question is, what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it?
Yep, that's been a question for a long time.
Yeah, and I want to, there needs to be lawyers involved. There needs to be, what kind of right do we have to protect our own resources and water? What sort of rights do we have locally to do that? And so we can say no more Title V.
I think the
And
only
it
thing
is-
you can do is work, go to your board of health meetings. The boards of health have a lot of power, and I would.
What you may want to do, it's a next to impossible thing, and DEP doesn't not know it. And, if you really want to do it, I would go to your representatives, Dylan Fernandez and Julian Sear. Julian Sear has a Board of Health or state health background, and he would be a good resource, and he would give you a reality check if it's even a doable thing. But really, legally, it is not illegal. And I don't disagree that it is bad for our environment, particularly, maybe not the mainland, but I would suggest to call Julian Sear or Dylan Fernandez to get it off the ground.
That's a good suggestion.
And yes, and also going to the boards of health, because there is this promising little thing saying you have to do Title V or better. And I want to get a hold of those two words. What can we do with those two words? So that to give the Board of Health the right to allow systems that are less polluting, whether or not they have been going through DEP. We have to do this, folks. We are continuing. I am putting nitrogen into my groundwater now that I live on Skiff Ave. I never, ever put nitrogen in the groundwater when I lived on the farm, the Solviva farm. And now I'm staying here every day. I'm flushing nitrogen into the lagoon. And I feel it's outrageous. Everybody needs to say, no more. Stop it.
Work on that. All right, let's see. David, did you have anything you wanted up? John, you back up. John, go ahead. John.
Don't want to get stuck in this, but I wondered, I know that over the years, the so-called alternative systems have involved examination of the consequences of their use in terms of, what goes in versus what goes out. And, like the throughput rate for nitrogen. And let's not forget, please, phosphorus, which is the limiting nutrient for freshwater life. And I'm wondering, is there actually a data set? Are people collecting data on what, in fact, comes out of these Title V systems on the vineyard?
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
that, in other words, if the data are there, then surely it would speak volumes to deploy that in this argument.
The data is all there, and DEP is absolutely aware, because it's their scientists who are saying that the average Title V septic system puts out about 70 or so parts per million of nitrogen. And of that, very little is reduced before it gets into the ponds. This is information that comes from DEP. In other words, they are breaking the law and they are fully aware of it.
Okay, I think we need to move on. David, did you have anything you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, thanks, Rich. I just want to quick plug the GPF's, the project I've been working on, the Island Ponds Community Workshop. We did send out a save the date just this morning, and the first two workshops are set for December 2nd at 1 p.m. and then the following December 9th at 1 p.m. again. And we're pretty excited about it. We've got some really amazing guest speakers coming in. The first workshop, for example, we've got researcher from MBL talking about his nitrogen isotope research on the vineyard. And then we're going to have a panel discussion staffed by several local experts, some really great people from our own island community, to kind of talk about the nitrogen question, land use question on the island. And then our second workshop on December 9th is going to focus more on kind of extreme conditions in the ponds as well, such as harmful algal blooms, an information session on some aquatic invasive species, things like that. So the Zoom invitation, if you didn't get a save the date, I think we were trying to forward it to this community, but if you didn't get a save the date, I'll put my email address in the chat here. You're free to reach out to me or go on the Great Pond Foundation's website. And then closer to the actual day of the workshop, we'll send out the actual Zoom link for the workshop. It's open to anybody, so feel free to share it. We're not posting it publicly because we're afraid of Zoom bombers and things of that nature. So But yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out.
So this will go out to everybody on this call.
Yep, yeah, it should.
Great.
And if we leave anybody off, feel free to just make inquiries. We'll find you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Emma, you got anything else new to share?
No, I don't think so. Lots of cool stuff going on at the Shellfish Group. But it's sort of that time of year where we're sort of wrapping all kinds of things up. So we had a really great summer. One of the cool things that we did this fall was the last day of August, we spawned the inshore species of surf clams. Maybe you haven't really noticed them much because we don't commonly eat them around here, but they only grow 5 inches or so, and they look like a surf clam. You'd see them off of like State Beach as a spot. We spawned those and grew them a couple 100,000 for the Southeastern Massachusetts Aquaculture Center, just CMAC, and they gave them out to a bunch of shellfish farmers to grow. So we did a different version of the same project earlier in the summer of 2020. And so it was just really fun to grow a slightly different species. They grow really fast, and hoping that this will be a new product for aquaculture farms. So the Martinos, for example, at Cottage City here on the Vineyard, did get some of these clams. So that was just something new and different.
Wow.
Are those the clams that you get when you order fried clams?
No, if you were to order clam strips, what you get is part of a surf clam. When you order fried clams that are like whole belly, those are steamers. But these little surf clams, they end up being called butter clams in the industry. And the idea is you eat them at like 1.5, 2 inches big. And in my experience, I mean, they're fun because they're easier to open than a quahog because they gape. So it's really easy to get a knife in there. They're really sweet. They're not as salty. They're way more tender than a quahog, but meatier than a steamer. So they're really just like a mixture of characteristics between the two. So little ones could be fried whole. They can be eaten whole and raw, or they can be like steamed and put into pastas and things like that. So that's the idea.
Wow.
Good.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. Danielle, got anything you want to talk about? Huh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Trying
It
to get a
says
bunch
you're
of
on.
stuff done. Huh?
There you go. There you go. I
Am I mute?
couldn't hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, like Emma said, it's busy. It's near the end of the year. I'm trying to wrap some stuff up. But I love Liz's presentation, and there's a lot to it, and I'm looking forward to working on this with the rest of you guys.
Yep. So no scallops. Is that the story?
That's right. There isn't really many in
Ooh.
Vineyard. It was a
Wow.
poor scallop year.
Wow.
Sorry, guys.
That's too bad.
I know. But
Wow.
you're in Oak Bluffs, right?
I don't think we got any Oak Bluffs that I know of.
Hmm.
Haven't seen any.
I saw 2 guys out there fishing yesterday, right off of here, off the lobster hatchery.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't
Really?
seen anyone dragging out there for a couple of years. Of course, I don't see them today, but
He
it's
got
windy.
like a bushel and a half yesterday. So, and he's commercial.
Oh.
Yeah.
Anna, you got a question?
Yeah, this is so sad. This is so sad. Am I hearing that there are not going to be any scallops this season? And I mean, that is incredibly sad. And it is really pretty much 100% caused by Title V, right? Pretty much 100% caused by that, which is caused by DEP. What the hell are they doing to us?
Okay. We've had this discussion. We all agree with you. Okay, Jerry, you're up next on my screen here.
We got to do something about it, guys. It's been 20 years almost that we've been doing Water Alliance.
Do a march on
Still
Boston.
nothing done about nitrogen.
Okay,
Except
Jerry, anything?
There's a lot going on to follow up on some of the things we talked about in past months, but no real update for today.
Okay, great. Thank you. Sherry's still with us. You got anything else you want to say, Sherry? Maybe she's not.
Sherry's getting ready to go out and do eDNA sampling.
Okay, all right. So we'll move on. Liz, Liz is still with us. We heard from her. Julie Pringle, Great Pond Foundation.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, David and I are like sitting right next to each other, so sometimes there's a little bit of an echo. I don't have any updates. We have completed our water sampling for this summer. We were out on Tisbury Great Pond, Edgartown Great Pond, and Chilmar Pond. And although it's a beautiful day today, I'm happy to no longer be going out in the water. And we'll be publishing some ecosystem monitoring reports probably at the beginning of next year. So when we come out with those, I will let you all know and send out the link. But other than that, no updates.
Great, thank you. Lucy Morrison, I know you're employee of the commission, but you're also involved in a lot of stuff in Edgartown. Anything you want to share with us?
I don't think so. No Zoom bombing. So that was my main reason for being here. So
We appreciate that.
yeah, no problem.
We appreciate that. All right, appreciate all the other work you do. Keep the commission in line. All right, let's see, where am I? Something moved. So it looks like Becky Finn is up next. Somebody got skipped. Becky, you still there?
I am. I apologize. My connection's been kind of wonky. But nothing major to report other than the fact that we're still doing a lot of really pretty amazing projects. Looking at eDNA, also at, well, actually it's a lot of the stuff that I think Andrew's still here. He can talk about if he is still here. Oh, I don't see him.
Yeah, he disappeared.
Excuse me. Yeah, we've got a meeting with EPA about eDNA in about 20 minutes. And Marcella has been looking at cyanobacteria really, really closely, and she's getting really great at identifying different algal species. So the lab has been crazy busy, and we've also been looking at at grants and pretty successful in our grant proposals this year, thank goodness. So this means we've got another 2 years worth of funding for our herring and eel study and our Squibnocket Pond study. And Emma, we got your email today, and we're really, really excited that you're doing this, and we will help in any way we possibly can. I don't know if you wanted to mention what you're looking at as far as that goes. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, Becky. I talked to Andrew for a while this morning, and thank you for your enthusiasm. Yeah, just throwing it out there. We're trying to put together a pretty big proposal for a pretty big grant to look at the production of the purple and the quahog. So that's kind of why I was asking a little bit more about what Liz mentioned about the purple pigmentation. And so we've got partners from all over the country, and a few from outside of the country who are specialists on shell color and geneticists on board. And so it's a really, it's a Salt and Salt Kennedy grant, which is, a really big competitive federal RFP. So I'm also trying to be realistic that most people I know have applied for SKs multiple times and don't always get them the first time. So it's just a reality, but we're working on it. We're looking into it. So.
Great, thank you. Greg, do you have anything you'd like to say? Still there, Greg? Not hearing anything from Greg. All right.
Sorry, I unmuted.
There you are.
I have nothing to report, but I do have a request. I had to miss the beginning of this meeting because I had a Zoom medical appointment. And so I missed Liz Durkee's presentation. I think everything's being recorded. I wonder if some arrangement can be made to have that sent to the meeting attendees or the membership of the Water Alliance.
I think Gail's gonna work on that. Gail Tipton, right?
We talked
Uh,
about going to
Sherry,
and
Sherry
Sherry,
mentioned putting it on the website
On the
for
website.
Water Alliance.
Oh, good.
both things. MVTV and the website. Greg,
So-
hopefully you can see one of those.
Should be
Thank you.
available.
That sounds great.
Yeah, reach out to Sherry or reach out to Liz too.
Yeah, Richard, I can send the link for the Zoom meeting to the list members.
Great, great, terrific. Okay, anybody else have anything? Well, should we all just go back outside and enjoy this beautiful day?
Yeah, I'll just mention, since I didn't get any questions for the island water resource people, which surprises me. But Sherry had said she was interested in what would be recommended to be tested in the water when people get there to, take their water to be tested. So I can send that one over to them. And if there's not, and if anybody has any others, just email me and I will contact them. Okay. Because about 2/3 of this island are on wells.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
the other is town water. So, yeah.
Yep, John?
Gail, they must have a substantial, data set from all their years of testing water from the wells they're involved with and so on. And I wonder if so, is that something that's already been shared with the commission?
No, as far as I know, no. And this is the first time we've asked them to come and share what's going on underneath the surface. And most people don't know what's going on underneath the surface.
That would dovetail with, I can't remember, forgive me, whether it was last month or the month before, but we're talking about trying to expand the net of the scope of the alliance, who's involved, but also the data sets that are available to look at. And we were talking about meteorological data. So I wonder if they and others who have any data could make it available, but then also whether they could facilitate the expansion of the network, and the scope of the information that we've got.
Well, because it's a good question, but what I responded to Sherry was, I will have to find out if they have that information, in terms of the testing of the wells. I don't know to what extent they do. Because usually those are just the places that do test the wells, like Aquina and the labs. So I'll have to find out. But I know that we're going to be talking about the flow and the direction and all those invisible, interesting things. And I have a triptych I made of watersheds, which I can bring in. And Sherry has some maps of watersheds, which we can project as well. So we get a nice overview of the flow of the water. Yeah. But I will ask them, John. Yeah.
Great. Anybody else? All right, I think we can call it a day. Everybody agree?
Yeah, thank you, Richard.
All right, thank you all for coming, and next time it'll maybe be snowing and we won't mind being inside. Goodbye, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving.
Great to see you all.
Well, take care.
Bye. Bye-bye. Where's that thing? Oh, I lost. There it is. There it is. Thanks, Lucy.
Yeah, no problem. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. I miss you. I don't miss a lot of other people, but I miss you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.